Oh, hi, I'm Sailor Moon, Serena, and I'm Sailor Mini Moon Reenie here. And today we're going to talk about, fair work and why we don't do anything in our films that anyone would say fair work. Now, I know there are going to be some folks out there saying, oh, dolls are fair work. Well, dolls are, I guess they're, they're traded for anyone to work with. So it would be hard to put ownership on any one of them when they were made to be sold and bought by folks. But anyway, a lot of folks might say, is it even worth doing any of that? Why we don't do any of it? You might ask yourself, I don't know. Hey, I'm going to talk about it. Anyway, so some might say, oh well, why you make your films the way you make your films? First off, it is just the way I like making my films. And two, it keeps me well from getting in a bind of ownership. Because even if you're doing fair work, and even if your work meets all of the oversight to be seen as fair work, there's always going to be someone out there that's always going to fight you on it. So that's why we don't do anything that would make. That's why we don't do anything to make anyone, get mad over. Oh, you're not following my own. You're shaming my ownership or something like that. It's running, yeah, it is. I just don't see it. Anyway, yeah. So that's why I don't do that. Yeah, that's why we don't do anything with anyone's stuff. Well, first, we don't have any tools to. Wow. We don't got any tools to take likenesses or to take, a song or anything like that. So, yeah, and two, we just don't do it 'cause we don't want to do it. As Sailor Moon said, it is smooth enough out there to get yourself in an ownership bind, even if your work meets all the oversight to be seen as fair work. There's always going to be someone out there that says, no, it does not. You know? And even if fair work is a right, um, I'm still not going to get in a fight with someone over their ownership or anything like that. Because I don't know how to do. Because I don't want to get in that. So I make all these films like this. And if that's boring to someone, then it is what it is. It's well to be boring than to be in some kind of ownership bind with someone's stuff every time you fair work it. You know, because you always hear about, oh well, someone fair worked this and they did that and they did this. They were working it for learning and teaching. They were making fun of it. They were scathing it in some way. And they did everything. And somehow it was seen as fair work, but that whoever owned it didn't see it as that way. You always hear that saga and tale all the time, and we took steps to see it wouldn't be us. You know, you're right, Sailor Mini Moon, but it would be hard for someone to look at this and say that it was their stuff. Hey, and if someone wants to take our film and do whatever they want to do with it, that's their own business. You know, as far as the fair work goes, we're not going to give. We don't really care. You know, but some out there do. Some out there will fight you on fair work, even if it's a right or not. Even if your film meets everything to be seen as fair work, there's always going to be those who are going to say, well, that chunk of their work that you worked with to make your work is still their work in some way because you took their work to make your work on it. See now that goes. So in the end of the day, fair work, even though it is a true thing, and even though it might shield you or it might help you, at the end of the day, it doesn't help you that much. You know. So it is what it is. So that's why we don't do anything with any songs. We don't do anything with any films or far theater shows or song films or anything like that or stream games. First, we don't have any tools to even film any of that stuff. And two, we wouldn't do it even if we did. Because that's smooth to get yourself in a bind of ownership. Well, you're right about that, Sailor Mini Moon. You're right about that. It is smooth enough to get yourself in a bind of ownership, even if you're doing fair work or not. You know. So that's why we make these films the way we make them. Now I know some folks out there might think, oh well, someone might think it's boring to see a film that might not like someone talking about something and not showing them anything from it. Well, that's the way it is with us. We don't have any of the tools to film the stuff, and if we did, we're not going to go bend over backwards to do all that and then be frightened at all. Am I going to be seen as fair work? Is it going to be seen as fair work? Or is someone going to say I took their work and I shamed their ownership? Yeah. I don't think it's worth the fight with that. You know? I truly, at the end of the day, don't think it's worth that fight. So I do things like this. So I know that it's me that owns my films, and at the end of the day, I know that. I'm not going to go be one of those folks that, works with somebody else's stuff and then does something like makes fun of it or scaves it or does it for learning or teaching or, whatever they were doing and, gets themselves in a bind of ownership when they know that they were fair work. When they know that they were doing it with fair work in mind. And keep in mind, I'm not going for all that. The one thing I have never gotten in a bind with during all my time on YouTube has never been over ownership law. I never had to have a fight between ownership law and fair work law. That's one thing I was never gotten in a bind with. And I'm thankful for that. Yeah. So yeah, I am frightened of fair work. Since fair work doesn't really shield you, you're still in a bind. Someone can still fight it and say, oh well, I don't think it's fair work because since you did this, this, and this, but you didn't do this, this, and this, It's always going to be that. Yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, Sailor Moon, I don't know if it's worth doing it or not. When you have to still fight someone over fair work and say, well, I scaved it, or I made fun of it, or I did it for learning or teaching, or I put these outstanding drawings here, or I made them say this, or I took this out and put this in. I don't really want to go for all that. Because it'll be their word, fight your word. and only YouTube can make the pick if the work is fair work or not. And if whoever owns it didn't like YouTube's take on it, they could always take it to a law lord for him or her to give their thought on it. So I really want to go through all that? No. So that's why when I talk about a farsi or show or a film or some song or some song film or some stream game, which I don't really do that much, but when I do, that's why you don't see no likenesses of it, no songs from it or anything like that. That's why you don't see anything like that. All right. I'm Sailor Moon. I'm Sailor Mini Moon. We'll see you later.